This is going to be a brief and somewhat general history of that secretive hidden knowledge we know as the occult. Now, I am aware there are many different customs, traditions, rituals within occultic knowledge, thus making the sum of its parts seem greater than its whole. But according to some, there is an ancient underlying philosophy whose official canon has been lost to antiquity. It's theorized that roughly 6,000 years ago, a philosophy, sometimes referred to as the eternal natural law, was spread across the Eurasian landmass. We think this because of the very real similarities in language, customs, and gods from India to Ireland. For example, the Hindu Brahmins and the Celtic Druids had beliefs and customs surprisingly similar. This greater philosophy had much in common in what Aldous Huxley called the perennial philosophy, and it was spread by the shamans or priestly caste of the Proto-Indo-Europeans, a warrior people that domesticated the horse and invented the chariot. Now, what was this root philosophy? Simply put, it's the universal idea that you and the divine are one. This can be seen in the pagan gods, for they had a divine aspect and a shadow side, a reflection of our psyches. Thus, divinity is in us all. For some of you, this may seem obvious. Of course, we have a divine spark, but for many centuries here in the West, it wasn't so obvious. Through a literalist interpretation of Abrahamic monotheistic beliefs, you are not only separate from your divine spark, but also from your shadow. The origins of this idea could be found with Zoroaster, who about 3,000 years ago founded a religion in which he separated the shadow from the god, thus creating the good god, bad god duality. Eventually, Zoroastrianism became the religion of the Persian Empire. Over time, the Persians subjugated the Middle East, including the ancient Hebrews, who adopted some of the Persians' beliefs. And the Hebrews established Judaism, which had its spin-offs, Christianity and Islam, and they spread throughout the Middle East and Europe, thus smothering the eternal natural law. And over time, that idea of you as an independent divine spark was labeled evil, which also led to a fear of one's own shadow. Thus, one had to beg to be saved from who they really were. Now, why did this happen? Because convincing the masses that they were born corrupt and needed to be saved is the best way to subjugate them. Control the psyche, thus have dominion over the soul. But the eternal natural law never completely vanished. Some customs, traditions, and beliefs survived mainly amongst the rural folk, and was given the label witchcraft by the church, which lied about this philosophy, perpetrating such nonsense as the Black Mass and the killing of babies, generating fear and paranoia, which led to an inevitable outcome. But it was not only customs and traditions that kept it alive, but also the mythological tales passed down from generation to generation that spoke the language of the soul. And in the past 200 years or so, with the aid of magicians, scholars, and philosophers, there's been a revitalization of the philosophy. And the heart of this philosophy continues to beat with both its right and left-hand path practitioners. And when utilized correctly and not out of blind faith or rebellion, it can give one a sense of wholeness that's hard to find if you're constantly looking outside yourself for answers. Instead, go inside in a